Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, coming to you shortly after 11 p.m. on a perfect Melbourne night at the tail end of day one of the Australian Open. We are all three present and correct to talk through everything of note that's happened today and to look ahead to tomorrow, and of course to give out the real prize at Melbourne Park, sensation of the day, the big return. That prize will not be going to Adam Walton, who has just moments ago left the Rod Laver Arena after a straight sets defeat to career slam chasing Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz's first professional match not under the tutelage of Juan Carlos Ferrero. He seemed pretty chuffed with his own level today, judging on what he just said to Jim Courier in the post-match on-court interview. Do you agree, Matt? Did we learn anything about Carlos Alcaraz today? And will we learn anything about him potentially before the final?
Well, we learned that he's spent his off-season playing board games and getting ready for the Australian Open that way, as he told Jim Courier just then. Yeah, the question was, tell us how hard a day in the life of Carlos Alcaraz during the pre-season is, and he said, well, I play a bit of tennis and then I play some board games at home, which, you know, I'm sure he's playing it down, but that sounds fine. Sign me up. I learned some stuff about Adam Walton. Like, that guy did not miss a serve for so much of this match. His spot serving was very impressive and sort of kept Alcaraz at bay. I think sort of stopped Alcaraz from fully being able to just build up a lead, as he did a little bit in that final set, but it took until that third set for him to be able to do it. No, I don't think so. To answer your question, what did we learn about Carlos Alcaraz? If you two did, I'd be interested, but I'm very wary of falling into the trap of reading everything through a Juan Carlos Ferrero lens and sort of examining every little detail and thinking, is that because Juan Carlos Ferrero's not here? I think he just played a good match today against a player playing really well, and there were some moments where I think he could have been a bit, less erratic with his game, but generally I thought he was very good. It didn't sort of bowl me over in the same way that the first round of the US Open did against Opelka, where it was notable how on it he was straight away. But I think that's the difference between the US Open and the Australian Open, isn't it? Especially for Alcaraz, with his lack of matches coming into the Australian Open. He is reliant on these first few rounds to sharpen up a little bit, whereas he was sharp right from the off at the US Open. So whether that can feed into the final stages, because he's going to need to be fully sharp to beat Jannik Sinner if he does play him in the final. Gosh, we're already talking about the final on the day one podcast, but I sort of have faith that he's going to sharpen up as this tournament goes on, and that was a nice start.
Yeah, I thought it was a great start, taking account of inevitable rust at it being the first match of the season. And yeah, it just, Juan Carlos Ferrero was not asked about by Jim Courier during that post-match interview. I suspect he will be asked about again during press conferences, but I would be surprised, given how Alcaraz was responding to such questions a couple of days ago. I'd be surprised if we get much more. There's clearly a party line there. He doesn't want to give any more, so unless he has a moment of really letting his guard down, I don't think we're going to learn anything. And I wonder if his and Sinner's level is so much higher than everybody else that it's just going to be this question hanging over the whole tournament that we might not get an answer about until the final, David.
Or the semi-final.
I set you up for that. You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Look, despite the fact that I have raised that as something that I think could happen, i.e. Alcaraz runs into Daniil Medvedev and comes unstuck, the logical conclusion is that this is going to end up the same way as all the others have recently, and that actually their roads to the final are pretty inevitable and feel inevitable. They're certainly, at the moment, there's no reason to think much other than the simple fact that Juan Carlos Ferrero has left the building. He went to break down in the second set. I didn't actually see that break. I looked up on the TV screen, and within about 28 seconds he got the break back. There was never any real peril in this match for Alcaraz whatsoever, despite the fact that Walton played well. I think there was that jeopardy on paper against Opelka at the US Open, and I think that heightened senses. Yeah. And as you said, he'd just come off playing a hard-court season and loads of tennis before that, whereas he's had this, as Jim Courier said to him, 9 weeks without playing a tournament. That's a long time. I was trying to think, I can't think in the years I've been watching tennis many players just coming in and having their first match of the season at the Australian Open. That feels pretty unusual to me that him and Sinner do that. But I think it is also a measure of the fact that they are so far and away above the kind of the majority of the field that I think Alcaraz was experimenting with stuff out there today. You know, he was choosing which shot to hit. He wasn't executing all of them perfectly. There were quite a lot of shots going long, I thought, but I would expect that, really. I maybe don't expect to see as many of those from Sinner, because they are different players in that regard. But, perfectly acceptable day's work for Carlos Alcaraz today.
Yannick Hanfmann for him in round 2. Good player, but I expect room for experimenting there as well.
Me too.
Yeah, and potentially in every match until the final. We shall see.
Semi-final.
Shall we stick with the men's, and shall we row all the way back to the first match of the day on the John Cain Arena? We come into day one of any Grand Slam, particularly the first Slam of the season. We come in full of hope. We come in full of joy. We come in fresh. I came in for the first time, my first Grand Slam as a Cobolli guy, David.
How was it?
A fresh new look at life. He had the shits, David. He had
the watery shits.
He had as bad a case of the shits as I think. Well, I mean, who knows what was going on behind the scenes? But in terms of what was evident front of house, a really acute case of the shits.
And this isn't just guesswork on our part, is it?
No, the trainer was out after the first game, and the first word I was able to tune into in that discussion was diarrhea, and the first question poor old Flavio was asked by the trainer was, "Are you watery?" And I didn't catch the answer, but on the basis of what unfolded, the answer was yes. He did one of those. It's one of my favourite moves in tennis. It's a bit like the fist pump apology, or the apology fist bump. He did the rally into jog off court to the toilet. Like, there was no...
Yeah, I don't think that Ferry's shot had bounced twice and he was already off to the loo after losing the first set.
I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
He was in a bad way, and I could give you takes about how I do think his sort of resistance, even in the circumstances, looked a little feeble to me. Like, if you're gonna stay out there... I don't know, like, I guess I'm even though I'm a Cobolli guy now, like, he hasn't quite earned the total benefit of the doubt from me in terms of flakiness, I suppose. Like, there was a set and a half there where he certainly a set where he might as well have thrown in the towel and just gone and sat on the loo for all of our sakes. But I'm not going to go too far down that road, because we've all been there. And I don't want to kick a man when he's down. But it is bloody awful for him. I mean, what a horrible stroke of luck.
Well, when we listened to this conversation, we just looked at each other and just imagine you've got a best of 5 set match ahead of you in high 20 degrees Celsius, best case scenario, and you've got diarrhoea.
And you've got Arthur Ferry, who's not really giving up anything and is a really good player. Okay, there's probably a ceiling to that game in terms of the weaponry that he's got, but he was so impressive today, Matt.
He was very good, yeah, and ruthless. You know, he didn't allow Cobolli to get any hope in this match really whatsoever. And I think he'd been very impressive in qualifying as well, hadn't he, Ferry? So he's having a really nice run here. Even this match aside, you know, getting into the main draw was a big deal for him. But it is gutting for Cobolli and also for the, you know, bigger picture of men's tennis as well. You know, like if you're coming up with a list of players that you're excited about and for in 2026, obviously you're now a Cobolli guy, Catherine. I think a lot of people became a Cobolli guy during that incredible tiebreak against the Zubergs at the end of last season, and obviously we know how hard it is to end one season and pick up another one with that momentum. But Cobolli had shown enough last year with that Wimbledon quarter-final as well, for I think he was probably on a lot of people's lists in terms of, okay, I don't think he's as good as Sinner and Alcaraz, but can he get into the top 10? Can he make a jump? And obviously there's still a big long season ahead and he can still do those things, but this felt like a chance, a moment for him, because, you know, like, he had a bad start to last year, didn't he? He just couldn't win matches at the start of the season, and this was a chance to really only earn points. You know, he's not going to be losing points for a while. It's all upside, but he's got this stomach issue, and like just takes him out in round one, and before the tournament's even really got going. It was a real bummer, actually.
Yeah, not even midday, was it? And he was popping some quite serious pills and looking a beaten man out there on John Cain. Yeah, not even midday on the Sunday of the Australian Open, and you lost to Iga Swiatek in your 1 point slam match, your one and only 1 point slam match. It's been a rough trip to Melbourne for Flavio Cobolli, and it's tested me, but I will stick with him. I
would say there was far less disgrace in Cobolli's 1 point slam exit than a lot of people's.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying, is he happy with how Melbourne's gone? No, he's not. He's leaving a sad man.
He was also exposed to the world. He doesn't really know how to play rock, paper, scissors. That was a bad moment.
He also
as well.
had hang on, I'm struggling to remember who was against. He also had a devastating defeat at the United Cup. I remember I was courtside for the...
Rinderknecht, wasn't it?
Yes, I was courtside for the women's match that followed it, and he was sat in front of me eating the saddest plate of plain rice you've ever seen. It was like he was punishing himself. In fact, I think this has been a devastating trip to Australia for Flavio Cobolli.
You better not desert him, Catherine. That would finish him off.
He's on my fantasy team. I've got him until the next transfer window at least. No, don't worry, Flavio. I'm sticking with you, brackets, for now. Alexander Zverev was in a touch of peril today, David. Lost the first set on the tiebreak to Gabriel Diallo of Canada. Then fairly straightforward, 6-1, 6-4, 6-2. Overall, how much upside, how much downside for Zverev in this match? Because he was very ropey for quite a lot of it, but actually used it to find some form, it looked like.
I think that sums it up. If I was Zverev, and I think he said this on court, I think he leaves that court feeling pretty good about himself, because after the first set I genuinely thought he could well be going out, because he just had no feel on the ball whatsoever. I mean, he was sort of like trying to find the strings. I mean, so many of his shots looked as though they weren't really in the sweet spot of the racket. So, I mean, the backhand, yes, but on the forehand, which is the one that goes off, he was missing all over the place. 4-1 down against Diallo, who's 6'7", big server, was going for his shots, was causing him all sorts of problems, but Diallo just let him back into the set, in all honesty. I think there was a 40-love game that he got broken in, and he ended up at 4-all, goes to a tie-break. Diallo wins the tie-break 7-1. Zverev all over the place, angry, smashing rackets. I thought he's exactly in the sort of position that I remember him being against Artur Rinderknecht at Wimbledon. It feels a little bit like that against a big server. And Diallo, I mean, I've got to be honest, I think he was appalling after that, really, for most of the match. He lost the next 4 games in about 15 minutes. He really just didn't play a solid match at all. I mean, and I realise you want to go for your shots, but he was all over the place. But at the same time, Zverev's serve was kind of keeping him in his own games, in his own service games, to get to that tiebreak, even when he was struggling with the rest of his game. And then the rest of the game started to follow the serve. And by the end, the last 2 sets, he was actually hitting his forehand, I thought, really well. It was coming out of the middle of the racket. He was hitting it with aggression and assertiveness as well. And, you know, he's talked about how he just hasn't had matches. I mean, he had 2 matches, I think, at the United Cup, including that loss to Hubert Hurkacz. And again, this similar kind of profile of player today, somebody who can make rhythm difficult to find. But I think by the end of it, he played himself into some form. Now, it'll be fascinating to see whether that continues, because he's going to have a tough match on paper in the second round, whoever it's against, in Alexander Muller, who's beaten him before, and Alexei Popyrin, who's dangerous, but who Zverev's always beaten in the past. But, you know, these are not great first and second round draws. I mean, he said he wasn't happy when he saw Diallo was his opponent. He was worried about it. But I would have thought he'll be pretty pleased, not only to have come through, but to have found some form.
Interesting, yeah. Muller or Popyrin next. That'll be decided tomorrow. There's quite a lot of matches winners that we'll talk about today who don't know their next round opponents because of the way the round ones are staggered over 3 days, and it leaves us all at sea about figuring out what side of the draw everybody's on. But by the end of this week, folks, we'll have it all straightened out in our minds. Staying with kind of runners and riders in the men's side of things, I feel like maybe we should go to Alexander Bublik next, given that he's a top 10 player, and he put in a very mature, can't believe I'm saying this, disciplined performance today to beat Jenson Brooksby. A break per set, 4-4-4. Is this a new Alexander Bublik, David?
It's quite interesting. He was kind of asked that in the little media huddle he had upstairs afterwards, and it was not asked by me because it was not sort of framed with the kind of underarm serve element in mind. I mean, that was sort of brought up, and I sort of thought, oh my word, I've gone down this road. This is not going to end well, you know, because he tends to get pretty prickly about those types of questions, and he didn't. He said, yeah, I do play the odd one now and again, but, you know, not very often. He was much more serious in his approach on the court and also in the interview. And actually, the fact that you brought him up as sort of the third main player we're talking about, I think says something, and he's aware of it too. You know, I asked him, do you feel different coming here this year than you have in the past? Because here he is, a top 10 player. And he said, yeah, probably, because, I mean, for a start, this is the first time in 7 years that I haven't been playing at 11 o'clock in the morning on a side court in the middle of nowhere. You know, he's on a decent court, on a sort of good slot of the schedule, and he's a big deal, really. I mean, he might not be, he's not Alcaraz Sin a big deal or top 5 in the world, but he's being taken notice of. And he says, look, that makes it easier as well. When you start getting these better court assignments, that helps. You know, he pointed out that's an advantage that the top players have. So I think he's taking the benefits of that, and And I think he feels pretty bullish about his chances of a run here. Whereas at Wimbledon, he never seems convincing before the tournament in the press conference.
He didn't like the pressure that came with winning that Halle title and beating Sinner en route, did it? It seemed to have the opposite effect on him to apparently what reaching the world's top 10 is having on him right here. I do wonder if he's getting a taste for it all, that feeling of reaching the top 10. Give me more of that.
And he said, I'm not here to sightsee as I used to do that and things like that. I'm not, he goes, I'd rather be at home with my family, but I'm here to do a job. And I thought, okay, this sounds pretty serious business.
Okay, pretty serious business from Alexander Bublik. It is a brave new world, just not for Flavio Cobolli. Cameron Norrie. I'm scraping the barrel here of who to talk about on the men's. It's been a bit of a soft launch today, hasn't it? I mean, it always is.
It always
Sunday
is. I mean,
starts.
you dilute the order of play if you put it over 3 days. That's the nature of it. I mean, look, they've had record crowds here today. I think, 100,000 people in total in the day and night sessions combined?
Yeah, it has been busy.
Astonishing numbers of people. So it's very popular. They're certainly making plenty of money out of it. But, I mean, Norrie and Bonzi is a match that I said to Matt, that could be long beforehand. And then about 15 minutes later, Norrie had won the first set 6-love. And I thought, okay, that was a good prediction. But it did end up going 5.
Matt described Norrie as possessed after the first set.
He has these moments, Norrie, doesn't he? Where he has something about him and he really gets his teeth into his match, or it seems to be out for an opponent. Like he's a bit spiky like that sometimes, Norrie. He can also be the opposite, and he can sometimes be a bit nothing. And it strikes me that today he was his better self, and he was pushed here because Bonzi really turned it on and took a 2-1 lead, and Norrie had to come back and win it in 5, and that's a good win in the end, I think. And
look, he could become relevant because he's a potential third round opponent for Alexander Zverev, and he's challenged him before here. In fact, came very close to beating him here a couple of years ago, didn't
when
he?
I became a Norrie guy for about
briefly.
15 minutes. Because
what a night that was.
Because he played like Jimmy Connors in the 1991 US Open. He was rushing the net. He was hitting left-handed inside-out backhand winners. Oh, it was amazing.
It felt like we'd entered the parallel universe on that pod. Oh, fun. Should we talk about Michael Zheng?
Yes.
Wasn't expecting to be talking about Michael Zheng. It is absolutely okay if you're listening to this and going, who is Michael Zheng? Not many people do know. He beat his countryman Seb Korda today. He came back from ahead. He led by 2-0, 6-4, 6-4, lost the next 2, 3-6, 6-7, and he came back and he won the 5th 6-3. He is a senior at Columbia University in New York, and that fact leads me to a stat that came through from the brilliant Greg Sharko, who I know you know, David, back from ATP days. He's working here for the tournament as a researcher and stats and facts guy for the World Feed commentary team, and he came through with the stat this morning that there are 25 players in the men's main draw at this year's Australian Open who have played college tennis, one of which of course is Zheng, and that is the most since the Australian Open in 1989, when there were also 25. It's an interesting trend, and Michael Zheng looks like a great advert for going to college.
Yeah, and he very much intends to go back there after this tournament. He's not planning on going pro. He said maybe if I beat Carlos Alcaraz, which is a potential third-round opponent, I might go pro. But he has actually got to get past Corentin Moutet in the second round first, so let's... One at a time. He's a lovely fella, 21 years of age, and actually, I mean, the fact that he's here doing this is pretty astonishing, because I mean, he was 700 in the world just sort of 7 or 8 months ago, he had to win some challenges even to get into the qualifying here, which he successfully did. Came through 3 rounds of that. There was one match against Lucas Klein that he was leading 7-1 in the deciding set tiebreak, and yet he found himself match point down. 9-10 down before eventually winning it 12-10. So he's had a hairy ride to get here. He's 6'2" according to the ATP website, but he doesn't look that. He looks very slight. Very compact strokes. Nothing much is going wrong with that game, I'm telling you.
And a heck of a pair of wheels.
Yeah, and he needs it. This guy has not got a big serve. He was playing Korda today, and I think here in the deciding set, Korda's hit 21 aces, Zheng's hit 4 aces in 5 sets. You're not getting many free points there, but as you said, he can move. His backhand looks like it's tucked into his body with the 2 hands, and he can just direct it very easily. It's so precise, like watching a computer game, really, seeing him play tennis. And made me feel for Sebastian Korda a bit, to think a few years ago he was the coming guy, and a lot was expected of him, and he's had that horrible wrist injury, and it's so difficult to come back from those things. But Zheng is, it's one of the nice things about the sport, I suppose, is that from our perspective at least, is that new people come along.
And I really liked his demeanour. He seemed pretty unflappable, which I think is going to be interesting when he faces Mute in the next round, right? And
he aims to flap people.
Yeah, I mean, today he...
In fact, that's his whole game.
I mean, today he finished off Tristan Schoolkate, who I now have to pause and think about how to pronounce his name before saying it every single time.
There was a credible professional Australian radio journalist in our working room earlier on today who was doing a radio report and said Tristan Schoolkate, and my internal monologue said, "You're pronouncing it wrong." Thank goodness I didn't say it out loud.
Well, Mute finished him off today, despite being unable to move. I mean, that is an aspect for that match. He hurt his leg quite badly while he was up 2-0 and 3-love, Mute, and it sort of allowed Schoolkate back into that 3rd set. But anyway, eventually Mute did get over the line. He finished it with an underarm serve, and of course got booed, and of course loved it. So that's the environment Zheng will be going into when he faces him. But then, I have not watched a lot of US college tennis, I must say, but everything I read about it and hear about it, those are the kind of environments he will be used to. He's a 2-time NCAA champion, Zheng, and I think it's interesting because I do think we often have a mental image, a picture of people coming out of college tennis, and they're, in my mind anyway, they're a bit more in the Ben Shelton mould in terms of real energy and character and trying to impose yourself on a match, whereas Zheng is, I've only watched him today, but today he was very much not like that. He was quite serene, and I quite enjoyed that element to his game. And yeah, he's got quite a loose arm on the forehand, skinny frame, nimble, nifty, great retriever, and he came up with some great shots down the stretch to close out Korda. So yeah, it was a classic Grand Slam opening week, day one match, where a match I did not have my eyes on going into it, did not know about Michael Zheng before today, and he ended up really sort of improving my day, and I had a great time watching him.
He still doesn't know if he's going to be allowed to keep the prize money.
Yes.
It's been an ongoing subject, hasn't it?
It's not as cut and dry as it used to be. It used to be simply if you don't turn pro, if you're remaining at college, you can't keep the prize money. It's more complicated than that now. We were hearing about it with Oliver Tarvett.
Yes, that's right.
At Wimbledon last year, who sort of tied himself in knots a little bit in a press conference about how his accountant was going to find a loophole in the system. You can claim a lot of expenses, I think.
Yes.
And accountants are good with expenses. It was only Oliver Tarvett's accountant, apparently, was good with expenses.
We'll put Michael Zheng in touch.
Yeah, Matt Futterman's written in his write-up of this match, it's possible he can't accept that money as a college player, except for covering his tennis-related expenses, but there may be some wiggle room since he's a second semester senior. He said he'd have to check with his coach. I don't want to get into trouble, Zheng said.
That is a more sensible answer than the one Oliver Tarvett gave at Wimbledon last year.
By the way, one line I saw in an ATP website piece written about Michael Zheng that I liked was that he said he thinks his studies help his tennis in as much as he's kind of almost become capable of managing things. Because he's having to do both. It's making him a more kind of, I'm paraphrasing here, but a more complete person in that he's able to juggle things and not just be obsessed with tennis all the time.
I remember Nathan Chen, the figure skating, the great figure skater and reigning Olympic champion, he said the same. He was a student at Yale and kept on getting asked about whether he was going to, drop out because he was so good at ice skating, and he would always give a very similar answer, and he got his Yale degree and got an Olympic gold.
That's cool.
Very overachieving. Yeah, I cannot wait for Zheng Mute in a few days' time. It'll be a couple of days' time, won't it?
Yes, it'll be after
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay, last result, I think, to touch upon from the men's side of things. Francisco Cerundolo with a straight sets win over Zheng Zhizhen, 6-3, 7-6, 6-3. Fairly straightforward for Cerundolo, but a really touching tribute from him to Guillermo Salatino after the match, David.
Yeah, Guillermo, a colleague of ours, a media member for many, many years, somebody that I've known throughout my career without really knowing him, but because of the language barrier, but somebody that would unfailingly walk past, smile, say hello, share greetings, and clearly love being here and at the sport. And he retired just 3 years ago from the sport, and we were really sad today to hear that he'd passed away. And there was an email written by a colleague of his and a colleague of ours, Sebastian Fest from Clay magazine from Argentina, and Sebastian summed this up. He said Guillermo's stature in Argentina and much of Latin America extended beyond the world of tennis and even journalism. He was a figure known and admired by millions of sports and news enthusiasts, and basically was the voice of tennis in Argentina, and clearly that has not been lost on Francisco Cerundolo, which I think's a wonderful thing. Good on Cerundolo for recognising him, and yeah, as he wrote, Sebastian, may he rest in peace.
Absolutely, a really classy, moving tribute from Francisco Cerundolo, and that's it, I think, for our roundup of the men's results from today. Join us in part 2 when we'll turn our attention to the women and how a bad day got worse for Matt Roberts. But before we move on to Matt Roberts' bad day, a word from our sponsors of this episode and every episode of the tennis podcast throughout the Australian Open. It is, of course, the wonderful Steve Fergal's International Tennis Tours, the premium hospitality and experience provider, and also an official ticket and travel package provider for Roland Garros 2026. And Roland Garros ticket packages are the perfect way for fans who want official access to tickets and planning their perfect stay in Paris to do just that. Official Roland Garros tickets your way. Single session tickets are available with the same premium hospitality options offered with travel packages. Tennis podcast listeners, of course, receive 10% off all ticket packages, making this an ideal way to experience Roland Garros on your own terms, officially and confidently, with that all-important peace of mind that comes with official providers. So to get that 10% off and to start planning your dream trip, just go to tours4tennis.com/podcast. That's tours, the number 4tennis.com/podcast, and use the code PARIS10. We'll see you there. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast from day 1 of the Australian Open, and we will talk about the 2-time champion Aryna Sabalenka. We'll talk about Jasmine Paolini. We'll talk about the incredible uplifting story of Zeynep Sonmez. But I feel like, given I trailed it at the end of part 1, we should get the tale of Matt's terrible day out of the way. Matt, how did Venus Williams make a bad day worse for you?
Well, it started at 2 a.m. when I woke up for Fulham. And we lost in the 91st minute to Leeds. I had gone back to sleep by that point. I could see the direction that the match was going and thought, sleep is going to be better for me here. Then I optimistically watched the Bills in the playoffs, and they lost in overtime in devastating fashion. And then
you were multi-screening that with Watery Cobolli in the media workroom.
Yeah. And then we had Venus Williams. I mean, who didn't want Venus Williams to win today? Like
Olga Danilovic.
That's
about it.
Her family. And that's about it.
But you put extra stakes on it by making her your prediction.
I did.
You needed this.
I had 95 points on the line, which is just a brilliant place to be at the end of day 1 of a slam. And I was feeling good about that. I was feeling like I had called this because Venus Williams was up 4-love in the deciding set, having played the most wonderful opening set. Like, brilliant. This was a really good match in the first set, and Venus had set points. They were coming and going, and finally on her 4th one, it's just this back and forth rally between Venus and Danilovic, and it's like who's gonna pull the trigger down the line first, because they were both just going big but up the centre of the court, and Venus was the one who did it, took the set. The John Cain Arena is going mad for her. She has a bit of a lull in the second set. Venus Williams loses it and comes out though and builds that 4-love lead in the decider. And honestly, I thought it was done. I really thought Venus was going to get this done. She was playing so well. I think what happened was that she got a bit tense and a bit tentative at 4-love up, and I think credit to Danilovic, because she played really well from that point. Really didn't really miss a ball from that point onwards, and it got to 4-all, and this was the crushing game, because she just had chance after chance, Venus, to get 5-4 ahead, stop the run of games against her, and yet every single time she had a game point, she just could not find a first serve. As hard as she was trying, it just would not go in, and Olga Danilovic was taking advantage of the second serve, getting it back to deuce, and then eventually Danilovic managed to get the break in that game and then serve it out, and in the end it was 6 games in a row from her to win the match. And look, it was a very special performance from Venus Williams, even in defeat, 45 years old, playing like that, like absolutely wonderful. But I was just desperate for her to get the win. So that's my tale of 3 heartbreaking losses.
At least you're not Flavio Cobolli. Yeah, but we are pleased for Olga Danilovic and her family, who have had a great day. Yeah, I mean, look, we've said it all before, it remains true. It becomes truer every time she plays and is competitive in matches like these. But Venus Williams is a marvel.
I mean, that was astonishing. It's 2.5 hours, and she's running around this court, smashing winners all over the place at 45. I haven't seen that in. I mean, we were talking. I can remember Martina Navratilova winning winning a match at that sort of age. I can't remember exactly what age, at Wimbledon back in 2004, but in this era, yes, we talk about Roger Federer got to 40 and Novak Djokovic is 38 and Serena Williams, but Venus is 5, 6, 7 years older than all of these, and she's got an autoimmune disease. Let's not forget. It's staggering to me that she. This is way better tennis than she's played for years as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully we will get to see her again. The two-time former champion, last year's beaten finalist, Aryna Sabalenka. She opened the Rod Laver Arena night session tonight. They've got a new kind of walk-on ceremony thing going on. It's been created by a sort of theatrical set designer. She's done Lady Gaga sets. She's done a lot of very famous work in the theatre, and she's created this kind of water sort of parting of the Red Sea type vibe in the tunnel, and then the players, whereas they used to get to the entrance to the court, wait there to each be announced on one after the other, they now disappear to separate corners of the court and are announced on, and they arrive in via different tunnels. And for each of these ceremonies, there's one at the start of the day session, one at the start of the night session. The roof is closed, and the visual of the roof opening and the light gradually emerging like a spotlight onto the Rod Laver Arena is all part of the show. And it is that the roof opening and the light shining down like something biblical is really visually spectacular. But is it better than the roof just being open?
Open the roofs.
Open the roofs. Anyway, Aryna Sabalenka comes out in her, it's not a custom Nike kit, but it's a custom colourway of the Nike kit that, if you're watching this year's Australian Open, you're going to get very familiar with. I think the women's ones are really cool. Wasn't a huge fan of Carlos Alcaraz's, but relative to Yannick Sinner's, he looked splendid. And 6-4, 6-1 for Sabalenka over Sarah Rakatamanga Rajana, who I think really showed what she can do tonight. Really, really did. She is a lovely player. I really believe in her talent. If she can stay injury-free, continue to get physically stronger, beef up the serve a little bit, obviously in particular the second serve that Aryna Sabalenka was predictably all over. She's got beautiful dexterity, a lovely backhand, but not a weak forehand at all. I think she's got the tools, and she showed it tonight.
Yeah, she was very impressive in that first set. Sabalenka had to work hard to win that. She was sometimes taking the ball early on return, but a lot of the time she was stepping back and actually hitting with quite a lot of shape and height and giving Sabalenka not much pace. She was getting Sabalenka moving, not giving her the same ball, not giving her rhythm, using a drop shot. You know, she didn't seem intimidated. She was really composed. It was great to see, actually. But I mentioned the drop shot. It was actually a Sabalenka chasing down a drop shot that changed the whole kind of feel and, I guess, trajectory of that first set and ultimately the match, because she chased down the drop shot, Sabalenka, and had to whip it from so low and only really had one option, and that was to go straight at Rakatamanga, and boy did she, went straight at her head. It was a totally legitimate shot. It was the only shot she had.
Matt made a big noise in the working room.
Jumped out of his skin a bit.
Yeah, I thought, wow, that's such a bold shot to hit, but it was the perfect shot, and it helped her win that point, win that game, and ultimately the set and the match. It was a real moment, and Sabalenka then was much more comfortable in the second set. But yeah, kind of one of those matches where both of them come out, having kind of impressed, I suppose.
She plays Bai Zhujuan in the next round, who beat Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova on the Kia Arena this evening. You watched a bit of that, David?
Yeah, only the end. It was one of those that was kind of the fourth match going on, because at the time we'd got Venus Williams, we'd got Carlos Alcaraz, Emma Raducanu had just started, but this match was well into its third hour and was just kind of chugging along, and I kind of just thought I'll pick up the result, and then next thing I know they're starting a 10-point tie-break at the end, and then I'm engrossed, and it was so dramatic, you know, the battle going on, because there were a lot of fans by Chinese fans in the stadium with flags flying, a lot of noise. She was having chances. She had a couple of match points before she got over the line, and when she finally did, I mean, just fell flat on her back and roaring, "Come on!" And that was a good win, because Pavlyuchenkova still hits such a clean, sweet ball and has real power. You know, it's kind of travelled with her through the generations in a way. You know, whereas some players it kind of can get left behind. She hasn't. But Bai stood up to it. You know, she's really tenacious, and I mean, I suspect Sabalenka's power will be another level altogether. But you know, it's another new name to me, really, and certainly in terms of somebody I've not watched before. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Tricky start for her against Mananchaya Sawankiao of Thailand, who hits a really impressive ball. And Raducanu was sluggish to start this match. I imagine nerves were a big factor here. You know, she has not had the ideal preparation for this tournament at all. But I felt like she was in some proper trouble in the midway point of this first set. She was a breakdown. Sawankiao looked pretty composed out there, and there was just a flash of panic in Raducanu's eyes. That forehand was looking unsettled, and she really dug in and found a way through. She was hitting lovely backhands by the end of it. I kept on tapping Matt's arm and saying, just checking you've seen this one. And of course he had. He's got a weird radar for when there's a good backhand happening. He's got Carlos Alcaraz live in front of him, and yet he just sort of knows when there's a
backhand
beautiful
happening.
Backhand down the line happening on a screen in his vicinity.
Of course, yeah. It's my sixth sense.
Fair dues. Okay, Jasmine Paolini, a winner, 1 and 2 over the apparently not at all tricky Alexander Sasnovich. Not for Jasmine Paolini, anyway. Turns out I underestimated her.
Who'd have thought it?
Who would have thought it?
And her draw has opened up today, because I think the next couple of matches we're going to talk about, like, they were in her section, the seeds that have lost. So a sort of doubly good day for Paolini. She did her job, and some other people might have helped her out a bit as well. Yes.
Now the next few matches on the agenda are, buckle up, folks. You've got a wild ride ahead for the next few minutes. Where would you like to start, Matt?
Well, I'd like to start with Elsa Jacquemot.
Go for it.
You like her.
I became a bit obsessed with this match.
God, it was 24 hours ago that I was confusing her with Kyrian Jacquet.
It's understandable.
Now Matt's a Jacquemot guy. Take it away.
She's, in my mind, I'm formulating a take that she's a bit like a far less good WTA Medvedev. You know, like, she's all arms and limbs.
There's so much limb.
Yeah, she wears these shorts that are like diapers. She's just all leg. And got very long arms. She's got funky technique, really funky technique. She's not afraid of a back and forth with her box. Like, that was a running theme throughout it. And she fights extremely hard, you know? Like, these are all sort of things that I would describe Medvedev as, and she was bringing them to the court. And honestly, look, she's up against one of the informed players, Marta Kostyuk, having impressed everyone with her run in Brisbane to the final, where she beat 3 top 10 players in a row. You know, I was very much intrigued by what Kostyuk could do at this tournament. I really thought she was capable of having a run, you know, to the second week. And yet, she was not convincing today at all, Kostyuk. She got over the line in the first set, but made hard work of it. And then she went to serve for the match in the second set and played a terrible game and ended up in another tie-break and lost it. And then the third set was just absolutely wild. Like, Kostyuk was the better player, really. She was holding serve easily and kept generating break points, but she could not take them. She ended up not taking 17 break points in the match, 7 of them in the deciding set. And it just became a bit comical, you know, like chances were coming and going, there were shanks all over the place, occasional brilliance, but a lot of the opposite. And I was just finding it really, really funny. It was just a good time. But then, unfortunately, with Kostyuk serving to take it into a tie-break, she rolled her ankle badly, took a fall, and it was one of those where you thought it was bad in the moment, and then you saw the replay, and David, we were in the press room together, and everyone winced, didn't they, when they saw the replay?
Yeah. I mean, in unison, several of us just went, "Oh no!" You know, it was just took your breath away, and
yeah.
I thought her season could be over with it. It looked so horrible. Fortunately, clearly knocked the wind out of her and was a terrible shock. But she got it taped up, and actually she performed really well, considering, didn't she, to finish the match, but was unable to win it.
Yeah, exactly. So it went to this tie-break, and look, the tie-break was messy, to be quite honest, from both players. But in the end, Jacquemot gets the win, and there's a stat here that it's the 5th women's match at a Grand Slam in the Open era to end with 3 tie-breaks. You know, this was 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, a very rare scoreline. Only the 5th. There've been 3 in the last 5 years, and then you have to go back to the US Open in 1985 for the first one, which, sorry Pam, was Graf beating Shriver 7-6, 6-7,
wow.
7-6. So Elsa Jacquemot in that company today.
I'm excited to wake up to a message from Pam with some crazy memories from that match.
Carlos Alcaraz is on his way to the main room.
Carlos Alcaraz on his way. It is Yulia Putintseva next for Elsa Jacquemot.
Oh my word, when is that happening?
That's her award. Putintseva beat Beatrice Haddad-Maia today, 3-6, 7-5, 6-3 on court 6, the bar court, which
it's also perfect, isn't it?
Which did turn out to be perfect scheduling. I mean, it was packed to the brim with Brazilian fans in full voice. I mean, it was a just wonderful atmosphere out there. But of course, Yulia Putintseva, fuel to her fire. When she won this match, she did a sort of provocative dance, took a bow in the direction of the most vocal Brazilian support, and sung Vamos a la Playa at them.
Which is not Portuguese.
No, it wasn't. But it was... goodness knows what she was thinking, but let's just say
care.
She took a lot of pleasure in that victory.
Yeah.
Yes.
And upset a lot of people.
Yeah, and so like
right in her sweet spot.
in a few days' time, and really like consequential tennis matches for the actual sort of outcome of this tournament and its latter stages are happening that we might need to report on. Matt will be dedicating his day to Jacquemot against Putintseva.
I will. And actually, today wasn't the first time that Jacquemot had unexpectedly been sort of match of the day early on at a slam, because of course she had that match against Loïs Boisson at the French Open
which I
last
actually
year.
Do remember, because I'd randomly made Loïs Boisson my pick, my prediction for the day. She brought me home some sweet points, which I can take no credit for, because that was a shot in the dark. But I was paying attention to that match as a result, because I I had something riding on it, and it was
it was wild.
God, it was chaotic.
Yeah, she is chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. If you want a fun time, honestly.
Imagine if she gets in the head of Putin's saver.
Oh, I am imagining.
Okay, next up, let's take you to the 1573 arena, and on paper, the biggest upset of the day. Step aside, Flavio Cobolli, the 11th seed, crashed out in the women's draw. Ekaterina Alexandrova to Zeynep Sonmez, the world number 112 from Turkey. Not necessarily the highest quality match. It certainly had its moments. Zeynep Sonmez really had her moments, but just the most incredible atmosphere out on 1573 arena. 7-5, 4-6, 6-4 this match. Alexandrova having led 3-love in the deciding set. David, you got a whiff of the vibes and came out to watch some of the deciding set, and had you not been 6'7", you wouldn't have been able to see any of it. It was only because you were able to look over the layers and layers of fans who were not only in the stadium but queuing to get in. I mean, we know about the Greek fans in Melbourne, we know about the Croatian fans, the Serbian fans. The Turkish fans are so fantastic. Look, it doesn't necessarily fill my heart with joy to find out that I'm commentating on Ekaterina Alexandrova. She's just, good luck to her, she's just not necessarily my bag. But I had so much fun commentating on that match today, because Zeynep Sonmez is a really cool story, and goodness me, she's a tenacious, dogged, poised tennis player. I really enjoyed her tennis, but mostly I just enjoyed her riding this wave of support and seemingly being in dialogue with the fans out there. They would give her something and then she would give something back to them, and they were sort of sustaining one another for the 2.5 hours of this match.
I think that's the magic of Grand Slam tennis generally. I think particularly this tournament, when a player from a country that maybe hasn't got that many players or is just so passionate generally, they come out in force here. They always have, right back to when Sweden had all those players, Croatia, Marcus Baghdatis, think of him. I remember the Lebanese player last year that I was amongst all of their fans. And yeah, I mean, this was red and white flags everywhere you looked in that arena. And when I arrived, it was literally to try to get the last few minutes of it. And there were people circling that arena all the way around, 4 or 5 deep, just queuing up to trying to get to a stadium that was full. They're not getting in, right? So they were just craning their necks, trying to look around the corner, see if they could watch what was going on. Well, I tell you what, you could hear what was going on, and that's part of the beauty of week 1 of this tournament. And I feel a bit for Alexandrova, because I end up hoping that she would lose that match, because I want more of that atmosphere.
Yeah, and look, she's tough, Alexandrova. She doesn't give you much to get your teeth into in terms of really kind of feeling for her or willing her on, because she just looks so... She's a real moper. And I know, what you're portraying outwardly can so often not be a reflection of what's going on inside. I really do know that. But it is tough when you're watching somebody and she's just so quick to be dejected. There were periods of this match where she'd suddenly hit her stride and, okay, she's middling the ball. She's the 11th seed against the world number 112. And you're like, right, you found it now. All you need to do is not just drop off a cliff. And she'd miss one and she just slumps and disappeared for several games. She's so streaky.
Never dials it in, does she? She's still going after shots when maybe she's not in form.
Yeah, and in a very kind of what certainly appears from the outside to be a kind of patternless way. That it doesn't look like there's an awful lot of thought behind it. It's just, it looks like ball bashing.
Yeah, she's thrashing the ball around.
Yeah.
And if she's having a good day, it's irresistible. If she's not, it's an unforced error fest. It was hot out there, wasn't it? I mean,
it was apparently. I don't know. I don't know how or why, but 1573 is the hottest court at Melbourne Park, and it's one of the least sheltered as well. Gets quite a lot of breeze. Like, conditions are. I've commentated a few matches over there, and conditions always seem to be a big topic of discussion. I've also shepherded Ekaterina Alexandrova out of this tournament in round one now for 3 consecutive years.
Oh, goodness me.
To Laura Siegmund 2 years ago, in 3 hours of my life I'm never getting back. Last year to Emma Raducanu, and this year to Zeynep Sonmez. But it was a joy. I really loved it. And Sonmez is cool. Like, I don't know how far she can go, but she's being mentored by Ons Jabeur a little bit. Well, Jabeur's on maternity leave, and Jabeur's lent her coach for a little while. So it'd be fun to see what she can do, and she's a real trailblazer in Turkish tennis, which is cool. Alina Svitolina, a winner today comfortably over Christina Buksha, 6-4, 6-1. Hailey Baptiste, also a winner, not though over Marketa Vondrousova. Vondrousova pulled out this morning with the shoulder injury that she's been plagued by for so long. Just such a bummer to get the news that Vondrousova was pulling out of the tournament, that she's still struggling with this, that we wouldn't be getting Baptiste against Vondrousova, which was a match we'd all circled to pay close attention to today. We ended up getting Townsend Baptiste, which was also fun, and Baptiste winning through in 3 sets. Okay, that is it for part 2, but don't go anywhere, folks. Part 3 is a look ahead to tomorrow, and crucially, our Sensation of the Day segment. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast, where it is, of course, the long-awaited return of Sensation of the Day. And today's very easy, I think. I mean...
Oh, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, it's got to be a slam dunk, hasn't it? There was a period of about 4.5 minutes where Adam Walton tried to make it a conversation, but I'm afraid one break of the Carlos Alcaraz serve does not a Sensation of the Day make. Not
when you've got someone who's won a full tennis match.
Exactly.
I think if you were putting up against winning a full tennis match versus taking a set off Carlos Alcaraz, taking 2 sets of Carlos Alcaraz, then we can have a conversation. But a little flurry in the middle of the second set. Sorry, Adam Walton, as well as you served and as well as you played, you're not Sensation of the Day.
No, Sensation of the Day is Talia Gibson. She beat Anna Blinkova, and apparently she was awesome. Now, I wouldn't exactly know, because there was a lot going on, and I didn't think to pay huge attention to Talia Gibson, but luckily we have a correspondent.
We do. Teach Trez, who is out here in Melbourne, was watching the Channel 9 coverage.
Had no choice.
They had Gibson on, so that's what he was watching. He said he was a bit sceptical, but ended up loving it. Described her as playing fearless tennis. And she, in her press conference, compared herself game style-wise to the likes of Sabalenka and Rybakina.
Whoa!
In terms of big hitting, liking to be aggressive. She wasn't saying she was as good as them, but that's her aim, to play a bit like them. And it sounds like she absolutely did that. Front foot tennis against Blinkova. Got a bit tight in the second set. It was a very convincing lead she had. Got pegged back, but managed to win it. Congrats on your big Sensation of the Day title.
I saw today the radio reporter that first called an Australian player a sensation.
Our guy
today. Who was the original sensation again?
John Millman.
Right. Of course it was.
I see him around too, and I give him such a fond smile, and he must think I'm so odd. it's meant with nothing but love. I promise you that. Yeah, Talia Gibson, the only Australian winner on day one. And look, it was interesting the scheduling today, because she wasn't necessarily favourite to beat Anna Blinkova, and none of the 4 Australians scheduled today really would necessarily been expected to win. It's interesting they didn't think, right, let's get this Australian charge going strong on day one. But obviously they've got Alex de Minaur tomorrow. They've got Emerson Jones, a Vogue sensation, a Vogue designated
would
sensation.
Alex de Minaur be allowed to be a sensation of the day?
Look, we've discussed this before.
Would he have to win the Australian Open?
The problem is Alex de Minaur is not a sensation.
No, he's not eligible.
Because he's not ironic in any way.
He's too good.
He's too good.
Yeah.
But it's going to get to the point where he's the only look, cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, maybe a sensation's going to have a sensational run.
Absolutely, that's the point.
I hope so. It'd be fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
Right, tomorrow, folks, the day 2 order of play has been out for ages. They released it very early, didn't they? Rod Laver Arena is opened by Coco Gauff. Tomorrow, she takes on Kamila Rakimova, one of the formerly Russian players now representing Uzbekistan. Second on Rod Laver Arena, Mackenzie McDonald. Now, this isn't the name we were expecting here. It was supposed to be Matteo Berrettini taking on not sensational Alex de Minaur. We had the news yesterday that Matteo Berrettini has had to withdraw. The curse continues. Just so sad for Berrettini. It does mean that Mackenzie McDonald comes in as a lucky loser, and it probably means a bit of a sigh of relief for Alex de Minaur, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's less threat on paper, considerably, against McDonald, who's a very good player, but he just doesn't carry the firepower that Berrettini does. And yeah, as sad as I am for Berrettini, I'm equally sad for myself, because my fantasy team has now lost Vondrousova and Berrettini, and neither one of those things could have been predicted.
Can't predict diarrhea either, David. The night sessions tomorrow, the 2 night sessions on the 2 main courts, both have the women's matches up first, followed by the men's. You love to see it. On Rod Laver Arena, it's Yuan Yui, the qualifier, the Chinese qualifier, taking on Iga Swiatek, and that is followed by Pedro Martinez of 1 Point Slam fame, taking on Novak Djokovic, the 4th seed and 10-time champion. Second court tomorrow starts with Daniil Medvedev. I wonder if he asked to be first on, just to prevent getting into any kind of sort of stuck in a late night rut cycle. Because that happened last year, didn't it? His first match, 2 years ago, his first match finished
against Ruusuvuori
at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it was unfair to schedule him in the day session from that point onwards, because it would be diminishing his recovery time, so he just got stuck in this nightmare of late finishes.
That's the one that got you, isn't it? The Ruusuvuori match. That's the one that made Matt kick off with that rant.
Yeah. Picture of a broken sport. No, that was Medvedev last year.
That was Medvedev last year against TN.
2 years ago.
Was this
tournament called Wimbledon.
It's always Medvedev.
Yeah.
Well, he's got Jesper de Jong tomorrow, so who knows what's coming from Matt Roberts. Following that, big day for Matt Roberts on the second court tomorrow. Simona Woltert from Switzerland is the first round opponent of Amanda Anisimova. In the night session on the second court, we open with Donna Vekic against Mira Andreeva, and second on, it's Mattia Bellucci. Almost said Monica, against Casper Ruud. They're booby trapping me, because they only put the initial on the order of play. M. Bellucci is a stitch up.
Irresponsible.
Yeah, thank you. It's M. Bellucci against Casper Ruud. The John Cain Arena tomorrow starts with Nuno Borges against Felix Auger-Aliassime. Then it's Jessica Pegula against Anastasia Zakharova. I think I'm going to be commentating that match. The Twilight.
She has a funky serve, Zakharova.
Yes, she does, doesn't she?
Okay, now I want to watch this, because I haven't seen that.
The night session, the twilight session on John Cain is Yulia Starobdubtseva, the Ukrainian qualifier, taking on Ayla Tomljanovic, making a play for sensation of the day, and then also making the same play, Alexei Popyrin against Alexander Muller, last on John Cain.
That's going to be long.
Yes. Kia Arena tomorrow, Storm Hunter, the qualifier, taking on Jessica Buthas and Monero. She's had a great start to the season, was brilliant at the United Cup, that win over Coco Gauff, of course, but she's taking on a sensation.
Good match, that.
I think so. Matteo Arnaldi against Andrei Rublev, second on. Laszlo Djere against Stan Wawrinka, playing his final Australian Open. That one's on the Kia Arena, which I think should be fun, atmos-wise. And then finally, Barbora Krejcikova against Diana Schneider. 1573 tomorrow is where you'll find Emma Navarro, Jordan Thompson. They haven't put him on the bar court. No, hang on. I get these things confused. It was the Sitzer Bros that complained about the bar court, and it was Jordan Thompson that complained about the people moving during points being too woke. Is that right?
That is exactly right. As ludicrous as that sounds, that is exactly right.
Yeah. Well, he's second on 1573 tomorrow. Third on 1573 is Emerson Jones against Victoria Mboko.
Yes, please.
Actually, now I look through the schedule, it's a huge day for sensations.
Oh, they're everywhere.
I think we're going to have to reserve quite a big segment of the show tomorrow for debate about sensation of the day. I'll bear that in mind. We got Kenin against Stearns on the ANZ Arena. Priscilla Hon against Marina Stakusic. Alexander Vukic. Okay, it's sensation central tomorrow. Absolutely jam-packed with sensations.
Today we were grasping around.
Yeah.
It's a soft launch today.
It really, now I look through the schedule, it really was a soft launch today. But look, we found stuff to talk about. Elsa Jacquemot, thank you very much. It has been a fun day, but I am looking forward to tomorrow. We have Gus, our mascot, resplendent in orange today, like Maria Sakkari. She won the first match on the second court today, hit around the net post winner.
Oh, that was an astonishing shot. Sort of forehand slice.
Crazy
knifed
good.
With right to left bend that just clipped the sideline. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, shot of the day for sure. And Gus is channeling Sakkari in that orange outfit today, so that's brilliant stuff, Gus. You're meeting the moment like any good Grand Slam mascot should. We have Bodie and Maisie and Roger, our mascots, of course. Hello to you. Hello, Bodie. Hope you're enjoying your first slam as my mascot. Hello to Greg, Chris and Jeff, our executive producers. Matt, should we have some shout-outs?
We have Caroline from South Buckinghamshire.
Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Who says that she loves listening but is still missing Rafa.
Lots of people we get that quite a lot, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, that generation of players, it takes a little while. People, I think, do bounce back and find somebody else to like, but it's a tough absence. I think, vacuum
yeah, if
to
you've
fill.
been really... I don't think I've ever been through something like that, being so attached to a particular player, just because obviously we view the sport differently, but I can imagine that is hard to just sort of move on and find somebody else. Yeah. But it'll happen eventually, Caroline. Time heals. Like Caroline Dollarhide.
Yes.
I've got a memory of David once going quite big on Caroline Dollarhide.
Really?
That's not
I feel like
fair.
you had a Cameron Norrie moment where you watched her
hit a ball hard and thought, oh.
That does sound possible.
Did she beat Danielle Collins at the US Open?
Quite possibly.
Did you watch it and think she was good and talk about that on the podcast?
I don't exactly know. I've said a lot of nonsense over the course of time.
I think that might have happened. There you go, Caroline Dollarhide. Who's next, Matt?
Chelsea Giller.
Hello, Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
From Washington, D.C.
Nice.
And Chelsea says, I got my boyfriend into tennis this year, largely with the help of the podcast.
Hey!
We went to the French Open together, and he made me a picture frame board with open frames for the other 3 majors. Can't wait to fill it out over the years.
That's so cool.
That really is cool. Oh, Chelsea, like...
The football club.
Chelsea's definitely had that before, though, hasn't she? Any tennis...
Well,
I'm going to mention Dominic Thiem, who's famously a die-hard Chelsea fan, isn't he? Inexplicably.
You can't have everything, can you?
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. Chelsea, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
And finally, we have Anna from California.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, Anna.
Anna says, like most listeners, I love listening to the pod while I walk my dog.
Oh.
Thanks for keeping us company. I've played tennis all my life, but never been to a professional match in person. Where should I start?
Well, there's plenty of options in California to choose from, so maybe start local and expand out from there. Like Anna Bondar.
Yes, or Anna Ivanovic.
Anna Kalinskaya.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Anna Chakvetadze.
From the tennis world.
I
thought of Anna Chakvetadze the other day.
Why?
Because I was asked for an Anna, a tennis Anna, and that's what came to my mind as well.
Okay. She's
It's a perfectly legitimate answer.
Yeah.
Anna, Chelsea, and Caroline. Thank you very much. Caroline Dolhide did play Danielle Collins at the US Open when we thought that was Danielle Collins' final US Open. That's why I remember it. Your involvement in it is still TBC.
We'll work on it.
I might have made that up. Anyway, Caroline, Chelsea, Anna, thank you ever so much. We consider yourselves shouted out. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. This has been day 1 of the Australian Open. We're going to walk home now while Jib in the Philippines edits the show. Big day for Jib tomorrow. Alexandra Ayala in action. We love Jib. We wish him well with the edit, and we wish Alexandra Ayala well with bringing joy to Jib's life. Thank you for listening. We will speak to you tomorrow on day 2 of the Australian Open.